In response to President Joe Biden announcing that he'd signed a pardon for his son Hunter, President Trump responds, "Hold my beer." I may be paraphrasing. I may be paraphrasing a little bit, but the sentiment is clear. Joe Biden yesterday announced in a post on X or on an official government document or a White House memorandum, whatever you want to call it, he announced that he was indeed going to pardon his son Hunter Biden. In fact, he had pardoned his son Hunter Biden. He wrote, "Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter. From the day I took office, I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making, and I kept my word, even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted." And he goes on and on to describe some of the crimes. This was a shock to the system in Washington, D.C., especially since Joe Biden had repeatedly announced he would not pardon his son Hunter Biden, and he did so on several occasions.
As we sit here in Normandy, your son Hunter is on trial, and I know that you cannot speak about an ongoing federal prosecution. But let me ask you, will you accept the jury's outcome, their verdict, no matter what it is?
Yes.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
All right, so there's Joe Biden telling David Muir on ABC that he has ruled out a pardon for his son. Well, that ruling was overruled by Joe Biden. Joe Biden very conflicted. And he went on to say that he didn't actually respect the justice system and he didn't actually respect the way that this thing unfolded, because he said in the very last paragraph, "I believe in the justice system, but as I have wrestled with this, I also believe raw politics has infected this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice." Miscarriage of justice is a phrase that Donald Trump borrowed in his own response to President Joe Biden pardoning his son. On True Social, President Trump wrote, "Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice." Kind of a he said here in this scenario. However, a lot of people pointing out that there is quite a bit of hypocrisy in Joe Biden's statement, especially since not only he, but his surrogates, including Karine Jean-Pierre, White House press secretary, have repeatedly been asked and have denied that Joe Biden would ever give his son Hunter a pardon.
Second one, would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
Okay. Let me go back to the first question of the briefing. I know you said not a lot's changed since yesterday and that it's a personal matter, but from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Again, you've also said several times that the president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
There is, however, a pardon that shows that's not necessarily the truth. The executive grant of clemency, the official one, the order, says Robert Hunter Biden receives a full and unconditional pardon for those offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. Now, that includes not just the gun charge, which he was found guilty of, and the tax evasion charges, but that also includes any charges stemming from Burisma or Ukraine or any other investigation into what's been known now as the Biden crime family. This is a much more sweeping pardon than one would expect Hunter Biden to get. Typically, you would pardon somebody for the acts that they were found guilty of. But what Joe Biden has essentially done is taken a decade out of Hunter Biden's life, a decade where all of the questions are kind of surrounding and swirling around, and all of these potential crimes and international pieces of intrigue and treason that he could potentially be involved in, and he just wiped them away with the signature of his pen on this clemency agreement. Now, clearly, President Donald Trump has not forgotten the J6 hostages, as he calls them, who are still locked up by the Department of Justice and by the FBI. And it appears that if not on day one, very shortly after the inauguration, Donald Trump has plans to pardon them as well. Now, this all comes just 2 days after a very high-profile cabinet selection, or not necessarily a cabinet selection, but an administration selection by President Donald Trump, and that was Kash Patel to lead the FBI. President Trump on November 30th wrote, "I am proud to announce that aka Kash Patel, will serve as the next director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation." Kash is a brilliant lawyer, investigator, and America First fighter who has spent his career exposing corruption, defending justice, and protecting the American people. He played a pivotal role in the uncovering the Russia hoax, standing as an advocate for truth, accountability, and the Constitution. Kash did an incredible job during my first term, where he served as Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, Deputy Director of National Intelligence, and Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the National Security Council. Kash has also tried over 60 jury trials. This FBI will end the growing crime epidemic in America, dismantle the migrant criminal gangs, and stop the evil scourge of human and drug trafficking across the border. Kash will work under our great Attorney General Pam Bondi to bring back fidelity, bravery, and integrity to the FBI. Now, Kash Patel, for those of you that don't know, is an author, and he's been called, of course, a conspiracy theorist, but that's just because he believes there is deep-rooted corruption in the FBI that must be kind of weeded away. And speaking of which, Andrew McCabe was interviewed by CNN, and wouldn't you know it, Andrew McCabe is not at all happy with Kash Patel's appointment.
It's a terrible development for the men and women of the FBI, and also for the nation that depends on a highly functioning, professional, independent Federal Bureau of Investigation. The fact that Kash Patel is profoundly unqualified for this job is not even like a matter for debate. So I think what we should really be thinking about right now is, what does this signal in terms of Donald Trump's intent for the FBI? The installation, or the nomination, I guess we should say at this point, of Kash Patel as FBI director can only possibly be a plan to disrupt, to dismantle, to distract the FBI, and to possibly use it as a tool for the president's political agenda.
Which apparently is exactly what Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. did with the FBI, but nobody seems to care about that, especially Andrew McCabe. And the interesting thing about this CNN clip of Andrew McCabe saying that Kash Patel is wholly unqualified is that CNN also found a lot of other people that said Kash Patel is very qualified.
Well, there's a lack of trust in the FBI with the American people, and that's exactly what we saw with Donald Trump getting elected. And with Kash, I mean, he has worked national security roles. In fact, he was a prosecutor at the DOJ with the national security under Obama. He's worked with Democrats. He's worked with Republicans. Donald Trump wants change agents. And I think the fact that people here in D.C. insiders, people within the FBI perhaps, don't want Kash is a really good sell to the American people. I mean,
that's right. If you're trying to get rid of the status quo, if you're trying to undo years of bureaucratic dominance by the deep state, then make sure your pick for the FBI is unpopular with the current administrators of the FBI. That's rule number one. Senator Haggerty from Tennessee was also making the rounds, and he had similar statements about Kash Patel and his qualifications.
He represents the type of change that we need to see in the FBI. If you think about the failures of background checks that have taken place, how could we have somebody like Colin Kahl, who tweeted out classified information? I went to the FBI myself. They ignored me. Basically, he was confirmed on a party line vote in the U.S. Senate with Kamala Harris breaking the tie to put this person that should not even have a security clearance in the third most powerful position at DOD. You've got Rob Malley. I don't know how he cleared an FBI check. He's now under investigation. His ties to the Iranian influence regime that worked with him and for him. Ariane Talatabi, who is still at the DOD, should never clear an FBI background check. This entire agency needs to be cleaned out. It's not doing its job. And if you look at what happened, the politicization that took place back in 2016, when senior leaders of the FBI collaborated and conspired to try to keep President Trump out of office. And then when he came into office, they put together this fake Russiagate investigation that hindered the Trump administration for the first several years. Look at 2020. Look at what happened there with the fake Hunter Biden story that the FBI leadership worked together with big tech to censor the Hunter Biden laptop that allowed President Biden to basically fool the American public and come into office. There are serious problems at the FBI. The American public knows it. They expect to see sweeping change, and Kash Patel is just the type of person to do it.
Not to mention there were other concerning moments in the FBI's recent history. For example, when they went to PTA meetings to intimidate parents who were complaining about mask mandates and other various items on the agenda. When they were harassing Catholics and Catholic constituents who were attending Latin masses. There are all kinds of things going on with our government's chief law enforcement agency that need to be cleaned up. And again, Kash Patel being the unpopular choice with the Federal Bureau of Investigation is probably a very popular choice and the right choice for President Trump's administration. Also, as we pointed out, this one nomination caused a ripple effect in 48 hours, which led to Joe Biden pardoning his son. So if anybody understands just how qualified Kash Patel is and just how hell-bent on seeking justice and bringing those people who have corrupted this government and worked against this country for their own personal gain to justice, it's clearly Joe Biden, because he didn't want his son in the crosshairs of President Trump's next FBI director. Now, there were a couple of other appointments that President Trump made that were exciting. President Trump wrote on Truth Social on Saturday, "I am pleased to nominate Sheriff Chad Cronister for administrator of the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency." For over 32 years, Sheriff Cronister has served the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office in Florida near Tampa and received countless commendations and awards for keeping his community safe. A proud graduate of the FBI National Academy's 260th session, Chad is co-chairman of the Regional Domestic Security Task Force for Regional 4 Tampa Bay, council member of the Florida Attorney General's Statewide Council on Human Trafficking, chairman of the Criminal Justice Subcommittee, vice chairman of the Hillsborough County Public Safety Coordinating Council, and vice chairman of the Hillsborough County Public Schools Citizen Oversight Committee. It's a lot of stuff. As DEA administrator, Chad will work with our great Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to secure the border, stop the flow of fentanyl and other illegal drugs across the southern border, and save lives. Congratulations to Chad, his wife, Nikki, and two wonderful sons. Chad is a remarkably fit person for this particular position. He has been a sheriff now, as they said, he's been working with the sheriff office for over 3 decades, and this guy runs unopposed for his position. He is well loved. He is very effective. He's worked diligently already with Pam Bondi and Ashley Moody in the state of Florida to pull back on the flow of drugs and to mitigate the drug issues that we have here in the state, and is now being elevated once again to a position of power on a national level to do for the United States what he has done for Florida, continuing, by the way, Donald Trump's, I guess you would say, desire to, or his track record of finding qualified Floridian lawmakers like Marco Rubio, like Mike Waltz, like Matt Gaetz, like Pam Bondi after Matt Gaetz, and now another that we see here with Sheriff Cronister, who's going to go in and clear out all the problems that we have, or at least work diligently to clear out all the problems we have with the fentanyl crisis. President Trump also handed an ambassadorship to his son-in-law's father. I am pleased to nominate Charles Kushner, father of Jared Kushner of New Jersey, to serve as the U.S. ambassador to France. He is a tremendous business leader, philanthropist, and deal maker who will be a strong advocate representing our country and its interests. Charlie is the founder and chairman of Kushner Companies, one of the largest and most successful privately held real estate firms in the nation. He was recognized as New Jersey Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young, appointed to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Council, so on and so forth. Congratulations to Charlie, his wonderful wife, Cyril, their 4 children, 14 grandchildren. He did mention, shout out to Jared Kushner, worked closely with me in the White House, in particularly on Operation Warp Speed, criminal justice reform, and the Abraham Accords. This, of course, is a tip of the hat to Israel as well, because he is a very pro-Israel, very pro-Jewish stance on all kinds of issues, and he's headed to France to be the ambassador for the United States of America, another high-ranking position. And speaking of French-speaking people, I guess he's not really French, but President Donald Trump had a meeting with Justin Trudeau of Canada. Justin Trudeau made a surprise trip to the White House, and this was on Friday evening. Apparently, we suddenly got reports Friday evening that Justin Trudeau's plane had left Ottawa, Canada, and it was headed to Mar-a-Lago, or at least to the West Palm Beach area. It landed at the West Palm Beach airport, where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was then taken to Mar-a-Lago to dine with President Trump. You can see here also involved in the dining or in the dinner were Mike Waltz, previously mentioned, National Security Administrator or advisor rather for President Trump. You've got Senator McCormick, who took this photo and posted it on his X account, and of course Doug Burgum, who's the governor of North Dakota. He is serving as the brand new Secretary of the Interior. Plus, as you can see, Howard Lutnick is there. He's the new Secretary of Commerce. Now, this is very interesting because this meeting came just a couple of days after Jared Kushner was in a flurry. He was got his feathers all riled up, his panties in a wad, after President Trump announced he was thinking of levying a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico if Canada and Mexico didn't get their borders in order, if they didn't stop sending immigrants across the border into the United States, if they didn't do their part to help mitigate the drug problem here in the United States of America. Well, as soon as that happened, as soon as President Trump made that threat on Truth Social, Justin Trudeau got on a plane and headed down to Mar-a-Lago so that he could discuss, I guess you would say, these issues with President Trump and dine at Mar-a-Lago with also the Commerce Secretary, the Secretary of the Interior, and the National Security Advisor. Clearly, a lot was said at that meeting. Also, fun fact, there was a child in the background who photobombed, if you will, the actual official photo from the evening. I hope that kid enjoyed his dinner. It'll probably be the last time for a while his parents bring him to Mar-a-Lago. But President Trump released a statement after this saying, "I had a very productive meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau of Canada, where we discussed the many important topics that will require both countries to work together to address, like the fentanyl and drug crisis that has decimated so many lives as a result of illegal immigration, fair trade deals that do not jeopardize American workers, and the massive trade deficit with the U.S. has with Canada. I made it very clear that the United States will no longer sit idly by as our citizens become victims to the scourge of this drug epidemic caused mainly by the drug cartels and fentanyl pouring in from China. Prime Minister Trudeau has made a commitment to work with us to end this terrible devastation of U.S. families. We also spoke about many other important topics like energy, trade, and the Arctic. All are vital issues that I will be addressing on my first days back in office and before." So President Trump sits down with Justin Trudeau and lays out his outline for how Canada needs to buckle down in order to stop all of these problems that are facing and decimating the United States of America. He also had a conversation with the Mexican president. And after these two conversations, we've already seen that there has been massive action taken against the flow of drugs into the United States. We've seen that there has been massive action taken against immigration. In fact, the immigrant caravan that was heading toward the United States to burst down our borders before Joe Biden left office in January, that migrant caravan has been intercepted and turned around and disbanded by Mexican authorities, who realize that President Trump's tariff threat is not a threat, it's a promise. And that when President Trump wants something to get done, he's going to get it done. He's got a mandate from the American people. He has a short period of time, only one 4-year administration or term to get it all done with. And he is going to reinstate and protect his legacy. He's going to reestablish a secure border and a sovereignty for our nation. He's going to deport illegal criminal aliens who have come here illegally to bring drugs into our country, to traffic human beings, to just cause mayhem. In the case of the Venezuelan gangs who've taken over in Aurora, Colorado, and other places around the country, he is going to restore law and order, not just here domestically, but internationally. And anyone who crosses into the United States illegally becomes immediately a criminal. Donald Trump is going to stop all of that, and he's going to hold Justin Trudeau's feet to the fire. Justin Trudeau knows this, and that's why he made the surprise trip to Mar-a-Lago. A very busy week for President Trump. Very busy weekend. There are no days off for President Trump. Thanksgiving, Schmanksgiving. He enjoyed the celebration with his family. He had some turkey and some stuffing, and he woke up the next day and went right back to work, meeting with world leaders, making important appointments, and of course, revitalizing America's respect and trust in some of our law enforcement agencies like the FBI. And of course, responding to Joe Biden's pardon of his son Hunter by issuing a promise of his own to finally take care of the hostages that are being held by the FBI, by the Department of Justice, from their protests on January 6th. There is so much more news to get to. There's so much more that we have to talk about. And that's why I invite you to check out our second podcast. We have a daily commentary podcast every single day at noon Eastern, 11 Central. You can watch it live or you can check out the recordings anytime. It's called Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. We'll do deeper dives. We do interviews with lawmakers and opinion makers and people who are in positions of power. And of course, we cover topics not just from President Trump's White House, but from all over the political spectrum. So if you enjoyed this podcast, listen every day and make sure you check out Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, available wherever you get your podcasts. Download, listen, and enjoy.